Well, a local Pahrump couple is suing former Sheriff Sharon Worley and Captain Dave Borokowitz of the Nye County Sheriff's Office, who is currently on paid administrative leave due to a FBI matter relating to a separate case. The couple is claiming that their son took his life during a standoff with police deputies and SWAT back in August of 2021 because David Borokowitz allegedly taunted their son into doing it over the call of service over a year ago.
So this is where we enter the twilight zone. But it's a twilight zone, again, everything is a point of observation. A twilight zone to a mainstream journalist will be perfectly bloody logical to someone who's done 50 years or so, or 25 years, or how many years it is of research into something. This is an important point about perception. One of the greatest ways that humanity is controlled is by the suppression of the sense of the possible.
Ricky and Mary Nelson say their son, Jordan, was heavily intoxicated, shot into the home where his ex and his son were during the standoff with police. Here we start part one of this story.
We're here today to talk about my son, Jordan Nelson, who was talked into suicide by David Borokowitz back in August 19th of 2021. He did some bad things. We don't condone what Jordan did, but to be talked into suicide is just unfathomable to us. CPS is just as bad as what David Borokowitz did, and we're thankful that Judge Fiore was able to see through all of that. They came to our home recently, December 28th of last year, busted through our gate, broke two of my wife's ribs, threw her against an armored truck, threw me in their jail for 3 days, and when we went in front of Fiore, she threw everything out of court. It was all gone, went away.
All right, welcome to the show. You're watching Axiom series, The Underlying Truth, on the Wild Bill YouTube Network, WBYTN. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everybody to like this video, subscribe to WBYTN, feel free to comment, and share this content with your friends and family. And once again, we have a story from the Southern Nevada News Network. As they report, this older couple, Rick and Mary Nelson, have launched a lawsuit against Nye City Police in the death of their son, which they allege the police officers coerced him into shooting himself. But so if there's truth to that, wow, man, it doesn't surprise me at all that a police officer would do such a thing, talk somebody in shooting themselves, considering at times the character of some police officers, and what this older couple went through too at the same time. I find it rather disturbing what this family had to go through. So let's give a listen more to what went on in this case.
He caught CPS lying. Somehow they got a hold of my Social Security number, and when Peoria asked CPS about how they got a hold of my Social Security number, it was Google. Well, Google don't do that stuff. Google don't give that kind of information out to anybody. And we come to find out that Michelle Weaver and Sunshine Perry were using their position of their job to get information on me and my wife. We filed a lawsuit, wrongful death suit against David Berkowitz and the ex-sheriff Sharon Worley. Soon to follow would be CPS. We're going to follow with that lawsuit next. And I believe Tom has already filed with the county commissioner's office. They're aware of as to what's going on, as they were aware of Berkowitz's bad ways.
Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. David Berkowitz. I wonder if his father's name is Sam. But anyway, what they're alleging is abuse of power by Child Protective Services and the police to acquire specific information on this older couple, specifically their Social Security number, for whatever reason, whatever they would want that for. I really don't know. But apparently, Child Protective Services was caught red-handed lying. And it seems to me that so has this police officer, David Berkowitz. That truth is, I find that comical almost. David Berkowitz, son of Sam. But knowing the way some police are and the way Child Protective Services can be, it doesn't surprise me at all that they would abuse their power, because many of the allegations against Child Protective Services is abuse of power, lying and documents and everything else. Because at least here in Canada, many of those social workers that work for Children's Aid, for example, are unregistered social workers, meaning they don't have to answer to anybody. And if that's the case down in Nevada with those Child Protective Services workers, that they're unregistered workers, then that just opens the door to many thoughts of manipulation, bullying, abuse of power, gaslighting people, etc., etc., etc. So let's just continue on with the story now.
Why are you suing Child Protective Services?
They threatened Jordan with threats of intimidation, told Jordan that if he didn't go do their drug test or do an alcohol test, that they were going to take his son away, who was 10 months old, and put him in jail. Jordan went to them on his own accord. He wasn't told by any judge or anybody that he had to go see these people. He just was looking for help. His girlfriend had bit him on the back in April of 2021. That's where all this started from. Just a simple bite. It wasn't a simple bite, it was a pretty good sized bite on his back.
Who else will you be suing?
One would be Child Protective Services, Michelle Weaver and Sunshine Perry. And the other one would be David Berkowitz and Sharon Worley. We've already started that suit. That suit was filed on the 15th of this month.
Well, there's nothing surprising in this story so far. Actually, nothing that surprises me anyway. Because this young man, he apparently he was threatened with taking his kids if he didn't do any drug testing or alcohol testing, even though he was never ordered to by anybody. But that's what Child Protective Services does. That's what Children's Aid does up here too. They bully people and they manipulate people and they gaslight people into doing things they shouldn't be doing. And if you have to bully people to get what you want, then your position isn't really that strong to begin with. Because yes, they are authority figures, but they are not absolute authority. There's this thing called investigation. Find out what happened. Find out this, find out that. But that's largely not what happens in these quote-unquote domestic situations. Considering the fact that, according to this young man's parents, this whole situation started because his girlfriend bit him in the back. But nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to address that physical violence perpetrated onto this man. You know? And that's not surprising to me. Because we do still live in a world where we have to unquestionably protect the women at all costs, even though they may be the one who's perpetrating these criminal acts of violence and creating the situation that has police and Child Protective Services brought in. And if you don't investigate the full story, the fullness of the situation, then you're going to not do your job properly, and you're going to unfairly treat people poorly. And that is rather, it's disgusting to me. Because remember, the Axiom series says there's always another side to the story. There's always something else to look into. There's always something else to find out. And if this whole situation was started because of the girlfriend or the wife biting him in the back, then there is a lot more to this than merely what the police say only. So let's continue on.
In District Court 1. We want the law changed. See, Jordan, when he had his meltdown, there was not a person out there that had a medical degree on how to deal with people that are having medical breakdowns. You don't have to be a little kid to be bullied. You can be an adult and be bullied. Jordan was 100% bullied by the Sheriff's Department, Child Protective Services, Judge Wanker. She was another one, threatening to both of them in the courtroom that if the two of them couldn't get along, she was going to take Jaden away and put Jaden in foster care and put the two of them in jail for 25 days. I don't understand why there's got to be any kind of threats to anybody. I don't get that one at all. But we're going to look into that also about seeing what, because I guess a judge has a code of ethics that they're supposed to follow. And Judge Wanker did not follow any of that day with Jordan when they were going for child custody deal with Taylor Holt. Nothing was followed. Nothing. My son went to his girlfriend's house, Taylor Holt, and shot up the house. Left there, went home, and shot it out with the cops. Where Berkowitz put himself in charge of the scene that day. There was no medical staff there to try and talk Jordan out of what he was doing. Like I said before, I don't condone what Jordan did, but he still has constitutional rights. They violated his Eighth Amendment right, and he just lost it. He lost his marbles. We called the sheriff's department, I would say approximately 30 times, begging them, pleading, crying, asking them, please take my son's guns away. He's not right in the head. Something ain't right here. It's all going to go bad. We know our own son. And we kept telling him, told Officer Gideon, look, man, you got to take his gun away. Oh, he's just drunk. No, he's not just drunk. He'd been drinking for 5 days straight. Jordan didn't drink like that. Berkowitz had no right putting himself in charge of the scene that day. No right at all. It should have been somebody else put in charge that day, not Berkowitz, especially knowing his past, being a bully. I don't know what to tell anybody anymore. All I know is we lost a son. Everybody else went on with their lives. But me and Mary sat at home, and I wake up in the middle of the night crying because I missed my son. When we showed up at the scene, he's cussing at us, get out of here, you don't need to be in here, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, that's my son. Well, he's shooting at us. I said, yeah, he's shooting at you guys, not me. It just all went bad. He was taunting Jordan into killing himself. It wasn't one of them kind things where he was saying kind things to Jordan. From what we understand, these other deputies that saw most of it or all of it, he talked Jordan into killing himself. That's the bottom line. That's what happened here.
And that's what led to your son's death, because he committed suicide. Right?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yep, they shot. His little trailer house was probably no bigger than this whole room, if you put it all together. It wasn't a very big place. They put over 6 canisters through that little house. Jordan thought he was dead already, I imagine. I know he was crying when he died.
Where was the child at that time?
He was at the mother's house.
So do you think the child is still with his mom?
We don't know.
We have no idea.
We don't even know if he's alive. We have no idea. We were trying to be a part of Jaden's life because that's all we have left of Jordan. Jordan's gone, and Jaden's the only thing we have that even ties us to Jordan, and now he's gone. For 2 years now, we haven't seen Jaden. Don't know where he's at. We've looked for him. We've hired private investigators, and nobody can find him. Nobody. And we're still looking. I want justice. I want some laws changed.
I want to have a law put in place, Jordan's law, to prevent another family from going through what we're going through, to push to have someone with mental illness training on scene with any person, for any person that is going through this. We have to have justice for Jordan. Something has to change in these laws. And if, this is the way we have to do it, then we're doing it.
Wow, that's such a sad story. I always hate to hear stories like this. But there is no doubt that the son, the deceased, did go off the rails. For whatever reason, he went off the rails. And wow. And to have a shootout with the police, though, and now the allegation that there was no emergency workers, mental health workers around in this situation to try and help this young man through his problem, to defuse the situation. And then to have the allegation of police coercing this young man into killing himself I could certainly see why the parents feel that their son's Eighth Amendment rights were violated in terms of cruel and unusual punishment. That kind of idea. Because no one was there to help them. They were just there to seemingly to aggravate the situation and bring it to a head. And that's what they certainly did. But I think a competent police officer and a competent mental health worker would have been able to defuse the situation. Even though this young man did commit crimes and shoot up a house and then have a shootout with the police, yes, I could understand why the cops were involved and everything like that. But again, you got to look at the whole situation, the entire situation. Because if there is truth that this man was bitten in the back by his ex-girlfriend, well, and then to have police and child protective services come in and bully him into doing things they have no business trying to talk somebody into, as opposed to diffusing and helping the situation, bullying and manipulating people does not diffuse anything. And I can see why these parents are so distraught, and I gotta say, I hope it works out for them. I feel for them and their loss. I hope they get to see their grandson again. So with that, I'll say thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to WBYTN. Feel free to comment. And don't forget to share this content with your friends and family. Axiom series, the underlying truth. Bama Pete.
So, controlling the sense of the possible. Because if you're doing things out here, and you've got the sense of the possible here, then when people like me say, this is what's going on, that goes, you're bloody mad, that's not possible, that can't be going on. And the biggest problem is that, and it's not every one of them, by the way. I was talking to one the other day who was very kind of intelligent, involved in all this, but this in general is my experience after 25 years of the perception of the possible of a mainstream bloody journalist. And that's why people who speak the greater truth, and have done throughout the period of the media, have invariably been ridiculed and dismissed, because that cannot perceive that the possibility that it can be true.